And we're back, Sam. Season 2 of Lost. Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Feels good, man. I don't know. I think it's just very refreshing sitting down to watch a new season, even though it hasn't really been that long for us watching. It just felt really cool. It was refreshing. So I don't know, let's just jump in right off the bat. What are your thoughts?
Impressive. What a season opener. Just, yeah. Incredible. Just in words cannot describe.
We're talking about Lost Season 2, Episode 1, Man of Science, Man of Faith. With the hatch now open, Kate and Locke ignore Jack's warnings and venture down the shaft without him. Now, just the title alone, Man of Science, Man of Faith, that like really sums up a lot of the underlying tension that's been building in season 1, and that's definitely like it's not even building anymore. It's there. I feel like Jack and Locke's I don't know what you want. It's not really rivalry. It's head buttiness just reached new heights this episode.
Yeah. I mean, because that was sort of where they left off last season. That was sort of like you said. It's been the struggle that they've been going on this whole season, and now it's just like, here it is. We are no longer within like a compromise, and we are now just on completely opposite sides of the line.
And season 1, it definitely felt like there was like a game to be played, like Locke's trying to stay on, I guess, not really Jack's good side or anything, but they're definitely trying to balance the way they're doing things. They're trying to keep it balanced because Locke does need as many allies as he can get, but now it seems like no, that line has been crossed and we're in this. So, oh man. Yeah. And then we mentioned it too in the finale, how Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, they always saw that struggle kind of being one of the main drives of the series, that philosophical battle between science and faith. And it's so much represented in these two characters. And another thing I'll say real quick too is, and we'll talk about a little bit of plot later, but Kate does drop the line to Jack that he brings up in the first season. If we don't learn to live together, we're going to die alone. So there's a lot of like really cool throwbacks. I mean, granted, it's just literally like hours after season 1, but still, I like the way they're kind of reinforcing a lot of the ideologies of the first season, and like, hey, don't forget, this is what the show is about. Boom, 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 boom. And it wasn't really done in like a heavy-handed way. I think it was very natural.
Yeah. It was really, it was cool to see just like a natural like progression, from like the sort of like the high intensity that we left off with. And, like things were wrapped up. So now we got to ramp them back up again, little by little, but there's still, like this layer of uncertainty and fear, unease that, everybody's feeling. Everybody in the cave, they're just like, are there others? We don't know. And, Charlie's saying there's not. And then of course, Shannon and Saeed go off to like find Vincent. And, there's just this huge cloud of unease that is, settling over everybody. And that was cool to see everybody sort of grapple with,
especially for a season premiere, because like we said about the finale, Saeed and Charlie, they kind of, their storyline revealed like, oh, it was, I think I even wrote in our little episode bio, they're chasing a red herring the whole finale. It was true. The whole story, the others coming to kill them all, it wasn't true. None of it was true. Russo just made it up. So, I mean, yeah, Charlie's pretty much in the right to be telling everyone there's no one out there, blah, blah, blah. No one's coming. But then creepy stuff continues to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Shannon, and Shannon and Saeed run off to one look for Vincent, because I guess Vincent was guest starring somewhere else this episode because he didn't show up. He ran off into the woods again.
Uh-huh.
Shannon gets separated by Saeed. And let me mention this real quick. I feel like there was a big jump in quality this episode, especially that scene, like the camera angles we were getting
Mm-hmm.
was very, very cinematic. Not that the first season wasn't, but there's different camera techniques being used. And I'm like, ooh, they got some gear upgrades.
That's
for
true.
Season two.
I think they just got budgetary upgrades because real quick, the thing that clocked it for me was the second, like almost the second we get into the flashback, Jack has a hairpiece. He's got a wig.
Oh man, his flashbacks. I know.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we definitely got some big budget, you know, going on over here.
We're definitely gonna get into his flashbacks in this episode, but yeah, I just wanted to say, like, there's a bigger budget now, and I think it's fairly evident. But while Shannon is out in the jungle, cinematically lost, she runs into creepy Walt, who's like covered in water and talking weird. He sounds like a rewinding VHS tape.
It's true.
It's a more creepy version of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I sound like Goofy on Rewind.
Oh God.
Which might be equally as creepy. So it was very interesting how Charlie's trying to calm everyone down, saying, hey, all this doesn't exist. And then Shannon's just like, nope, weird crap is happening. I saw a creepy wet Walt out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jack kind of comes back and, well, I guess we got to talk about Jack before we go forward, because he has this cool little speech here. Jack straight up tells Locke, hey, we're not going down in the hatch. We came all this way to help people, to save them, not to feed your curiosity of what's in this thing, not because it's in our destiny. He lays down the law. Like, there is no discussion. We're going back.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout this episode, it's a Jack flashback episode. So let's talk about that before we go on, because I know we've talked about like unnecessary flashbacks before.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt like that's what this was until it kept going, and I'm starting to realize, like, oh no, this is very this it seems like it's not a big deal in the overall scheme of things, kind of like his wedding episode. But I understand how this situation he is in affects him and changes him. You know what I mean? How did you feel about the flashbacks?
When it was starting, I think the first two times that they jumped back, I did sort of feel like, yeah, okay, like we, you know, like this is the time where he saves the woman who turns out to be his fiance, you know, that he gets
Did you
married
catch
to.
that at first?
Only like at the end of the first flashback. When she says that she needs to dance at her wedding, and I was like, oh, that's her. Like, yeah. So, you know, like at that moment I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Like this is going to be interesting. Yeah. And then surprise, Jack's dad surprisingly giving good advice for like the first time.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not everyone would want that hopeful message. I could see how they would say, "Oh, you're just lying to me," or giving me false hope. But I am a believer, like, especially situations like that, people have a better chance if they tend to fight. So if you give them hope, they'll keep fighting. So I think that goes a long way. But yeah, I think this is definitely the furthest back we've been in Jack's flashback. Because he's just now meeting the woman who's going to become his wife. his dad's giving good advice. Jack has a hairpiece, and I didn't really realize it until the end of the episode, but he's not really the Jack Shepherd we know yet. Because kind of the whole thing is how he's just being brutally honest with her. He definitely feels like there's no hope for her. She was in a terrible accident. The other guy in the car crash died. Oh, was it interesting too? Because he had to make a choice. He could either save her or save that other guy in that first flashback.
Right.
Which I thought was very interesting. And he ends up saving her. It's kind of a side note, but there is a scene where he's talking to her fiance, Kevin. You know who that was?
That was Anson Mount.
That's Anson Mount. He shows up. I was like, dude, I didn't even realize he was in this. And it's just a good scene, but it was good. We're kind of left with the idea that he probably doesn't come back.
Yeah.
For her. But anyway, so Jack, he tells her the odds and stuff. And before they're going into operating room, or they're in the operating room before they start, she tells him, she's like, hey, it's okay. I'm letting you off the hook. Maybe I can't dance at my wedding, but I'll roll around. And this is after Jack has talked to his dad, and his dad says, hey, just give him hope and all this stuff. And Jack he gives her that stare, and he leans in. He's like, I'm going to fix you. And that's when I realized, like, oh crap. Okay. This is Jack. This is the Jack we've known all through season 1, the Jack that's on the island, the one who has the problem. Like, he always needs to fix something. This is where it starts. He's like, I'm going to fix you. And yeah, I mean, I think that's just such a great way. And that's when I started realizing this isn't just another flashback. Like, oh yeah, this is how he meets his wife. But like, this is really feeding into his story on the island, because that's when he starts giving this, well, it's technically before, but that's where he starts giving the speech where he's giving them that hope. He sees everyone fighting. He's like, there's only 3 hours till sundown. We got guns. We're going to man the entrances and exits.
Sunrise.
Oh, sunrise. Yeah, I'm sorry. And he's like, we're going to get through this together. And you can't even tell if like he really believes it or not, but he's selling it. And everyone's like nervous. And you could tell some of them don't really believe it. I love Sun, by the way, in this episode. She has no lines, but like during that speech, she's giving Jack like this kind of like stare. Like she knows he's full of crap.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was really cool to see that moment kick in. It was like, that's okay. Now I'm seeing the connection. That's where this character begins. This little story. That's pretty much it, because after that point, his flashbacks take like a really cool twist. And I hate recapping stuff. It just reminds me of like the early episodes of Lost Legacies. But I don't know. I just feel like the flashbacks were really important in this episode.
Yeah.
We see him running laps. I forgot what he calls it in this arena. He's running up and down steps, and he starts running alongside another guy. Who's that guy, Sam?
Well, I don't know who he is because they haven't. Oh, wait, no, they did name him in the episode. That's right. His name is Desmond.
They name him at the end of the scene.
Yeah.
But did you recognize who that was at first?
Absolutely.
Okay, because his first line is like, I don't know, like, slow down, brother, or let me help you, brother, something like that. And you're like, yes.
So this is, once again, we're coming to points where Sam knows things about the show. And, from second one, when we see, like, oh, there's somebody like doing a little daily routine, music is playing and, he's doing his thing. And, oh, but he's in the hatch. He's the one living in the hatch. And, like, you spoiled the show for me.
Oh, God.
On so many different occasions, just because you needed someone to talk to.
Yes.
And so I knew this whole time I have been knowing who is in the hatch, what's in the hatch, or at least some of it. So it's just very interesting now seeing how all of this is playing out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our first introduction to Desmond is the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he's just doing his thing, going through his routine, looking through his weird like telescope mirror system. And then we don't see him again until of course the audience doesn't know, but we don't see him again until Jack's flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really good scene.
Mm-hmm.
Just them two talking about Jack's situation. And it feels like Desmond, like he knows that Jack needs to just like believe,
Mm-hmm.
just push past that veil of certainty and just accept for one moment that maybe you actually did everything right. Maybe you did save Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
It's the best scene of the episode.
Well, you know what that scene reminds me of? One of those very early episodes between Jack and Locke,
Mm-hmm.
where Jack's telling Locke, he's like, I saw someone out there. He's like, well, who? It doesn't matter. It's impossible. All right, well, just imagine for a second that it wasn't. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that same mentality. And I wrote in my notes, like, is Desmond the anti-Locke? Because it's that same kind of mentality, but I don't know, just something. Granted, this is all flashback, so who knows who Desmond is now? But it just seemed more pure than the way we've been seeing Locke, especially lately.
Mm-hmm.
Desmond's just very much just believe. I'll give you my advice anyway. You just have to lift it up. And I like that they kind of look at each other for a second, like, lift it up. What's that mean? Your ankle. It didn't exactly go like that, but yeah. I don't know. I thought it was very cool. It was a good scene that really stood out. And then Jack's next flashback, he's telling Sarah that she's never going to walk again, but she can wiggle her toes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was such a great scene because they're just talking. They're small talking at first. They don't want to get to the point. And then when they do, and Jack starts he gets the pin and starts touching her legs and she feels it. Both performances from Matthew Fox and Julie Bowen, just phenomenal through that whole scene. And we see Jack crying, I'm like, he can't believe this is impossible. She can feel her legs again. That whole scene was just so beautiful.
This show, man, such a great show.
This show. And I'm glad too, because I when I started this episode, I was like, oh yeah, it's Jack flashbacks. I think we're agreed. I really like the episodes where it's like the multi-character flashbacks, which I was kind of hoping for because it's a premiere. But I was wrong, and I was very happy, and I'm glad. Watching, I was like, oh yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, this is Desmond. Okay, I was instantly back watching for the first time when Desmond came out. I was like, yes.
I think my thing with the flashbacks is when it's done poorly. That's when I feel like, okay, this show sort of feels like it is riding on that, and if it doesn't work, then the episode doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then with the season finale last time, where it was multi-layered, and multiple flashbacks going on, I feel like that worked, but it worked because we've already known these people, and we've gotten to know these people, and so we're at that point where it's like, okay, this is where we're sort of wrapping up their arcs. And so we're going to do something that's going to tie into the overall theme that they're, the journey that they've been on this whole season, and it works. I was like you, I was hoping that we were going to continue that into at least the season premiere, but I like that it was actually smaller scale. It was a much more personal journey. And I think that's something that we need, especially with the opening of the hatch. And especially because this episode really does feel like Jack and Locke are now fully like antagonistic of each other now.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, Locke isn't going to go out of his way to like, antagonize, Jack,
I,
but
I don't know. I kind of
he is
disagree.
going to. Well, I was just going to say like he's going to go off and do his own thing. He doesn't care what Jack thinks.
Well, Jack gives that very impassioned speech to the survivors, telling everyone we're going to stick together, we're going to be safe. And in the middle of it, Locke walks out with the cables, and that's when Jack has to start saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "You could do whatever you want. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting for the others to come or not. I'm tired of waiting for the people on the raft." Locke didn't have to do that in that speech. He could have waited. So as soon as that happened, I was like, "Oh, he's doing this on purpose."
Okay, that's true.
And that's what led me to the same thought you just had. Like these two are like, I think they're like enemies now. Like a line has been crossed. I think at some point it might have been with the hatch blown up. Locke knew exactly what he was doing. And he also knew that in his talk earlier. That's how he was going to get Kate on his side. That bald devil.
That bald devil. See, that's the thing too, where all of season 1 we were talking about is John Locke like, is he the best guidance counselor? Or is he the worst guidance counselor? And I think Locke's one goal is to get you on his side, or at least get you to start moving towards this realm of faith. The way that he does that is by unlocking your true potential, and I feel like that is a very like devilish thing to do. It is helpful in a way, but it only serves his purposes. Like the stuff with Charlie last season, it was just like, yeah, Charlie's an addict and Locke is going to help him kick his habit, but only because it serves his purposes. It keeps Charlie safe, and it keeps him from, like hurting potentially anything that Locke is trying to do. Kate, this episode kind of falls into the same thing where it's like Kate is questioning what is going on between Locke and Jack, but she trusts Jack. So Locke is going to use that. It's like, yeah, like this is crazy. I saw a giant smoke monster. Did you see it? Yeah. Then maybe we're both crazy. But I wonder what Jack thinks he saw. And that right there is like, oh, he's aligning everybody's, like mindset and then twisting it to be like, look, it's fine if you trust that guy. But Jack is probably going to deny that he saw anything at all. You and I know the truth.
I feel like the writing with Locke is definitely switching from like, they're not writing him like as an enemy or as a villain or anything like that, but he's definitely the antagonist. If Jack's the protagonist, Locke is the antagonist as of this point. I think especially because like we don't know what's going on. You can't make the antagonist be a smoke monster. We haven't really seen the others, whoever they are. So I think that's kind of falling on him, but the writing is really supporting it. Yeah, man. And like even that talk with Kate, one of the first things he says, he's like, I don't blame Jack. He's like, if I heard, what I was saying, yeah, I would think I was crazy too. But he's still very honest about it in the way he said, well, just what you said. I wonder what Jack thinks he saw. And oh man, yeah, it's such great writing and great acting on everyone's parts. And of course, so who goes down the hatch first? Kate, because she's lighter. Of course.
Sherlock.
Yeah, to just sum it up, I love like Hurley had some great stuff too. He's definitely in this weird headspace. It sucks because he kind of opens up to Jack. He tells him about the numbers, and Jack doesn't really believe it. He's like, they're just numbers. And you could tell that really hurts Hurley, especially after his episode last season where he tells Russo, and she like empathizes with him. She's like, I
Mhm.
guess you could say they are cursed. Yeah. And you just saw like the weight off his shoulders, like finally, someone who understands. So it's a really interesting contrast. Uh oh, speaking of that, before all this, Kate sees the door to the hatch that's been blown open, and what does it say on it?
In big bold black letters, it says quarantine.
I'm like, oh no, I can't escape.
I know we're never escaping. Wait a second. Hang on. Were the words quarantine always there? Or is our timeline seeping through into the
Oh
past,
geez. Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
infecting the thing? Oh man, that's like I'm sorry. But that sounds like a Doctor Who episode
What's
right there,
interesting, if you think about it, the words quarantine would have been on the inside of the hatch.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Why would you put it on the inside? Hmm.
Hmm.
It's kind of hard to quarantine like the outside. Who knows? I don't know. One thing I was going to say before we move on, I completely forgot to say this, but about Locke being the antagonist. This is totally 2021 Matt talking. When I was watching this for the first time, hell no, I was on Locke's side the whole way. I was like, hell, I was Boone. I was totally Boone. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Sorry, Jack,
Yeah.
you're cool, but no, I'm with Locke. Let's go down there. Let's go see what's. I was always trying to figure out the answers. I wanted to know what's in the hatch. I would have died so fast. I don't know. Maybe that shows how much I've grown, how much I've matured, or maybe just how boring I am. And I would, back then I probably would have died super fast because I would just wanted to figure everything out. Now I would probably just like I would be like Scott or Steve. I would be the background guy who gets killed. Oh crap. Damn it.
I it's kind of tough to say where I would be, because I think at the outset, one at the outset, I'd be like, okay, we got to find a way to survive. We're going to be here indefinitely. We got to figure, blah blah blah, kind of like we were saying last season. But I would also want to explore, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would want to go with Saeed. I'm like, hey, like, I want to go with you. I want to see like how far this goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we got caught together, it'd be like, maybe exploring's not the best option. Or just, at any other point, if we had stayed there, then it'd be like, maybe we should explore. And then Ethan shows up and breaks every bone in some dude's body. You're like, oh man, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe exploring's not the best. But I want to go. I want to explore. I would be inclined to want to see what Locke is doing. Be like, ooh, you found a hatch? I think we should open it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am curious by nature, and I would just keep dying. Maybe that's my story.
It's a time loop.
It's a time or I'm like a cat. I keep dying. And then I get reborn at like the same points, but I only get like 9 lives. So
Yeah.
I got to use them wisely.
It's I think it also comes to a point too where like I looked it up. This is day 44 on the island.
Okay.
So they've been there about a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we're not getting rescued, guys. Like, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of the raft making it are very slim. So we got to figure out something, because I don't want to be living, in a cave the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very, very disheartened to see the quarantine sign on the door. But at the same time, I don't know. We know there's a signal out there. Now there's like a hatch, a bunker. I would be down for going down.
Mm-hmm. Hell, even just like the Black Rock, like I said, just get all the dynamite out of there, and there you go.
Well, that too, but that's more of like for shelter. I'm talking about. I would still be looking for a way off the island. Like I'm of the mindset like if we're gonna get off, we're gonna have to do it ourselves.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think I would be in it thinking, which is funny because it's an inspiration for the show. I would be under the like mindset of the Mist games. You remember those games, Mist?
Oh, yeah.
Where you're just like stranded somewhere and you have to solve puzzles and blah blah blah. There's no smoke monsters. There's no others breaking all the bones in your body. So I would definitely die. Because I'm thinking it's a video game. But no, like that's the kind of vibe I'm getting. Like, there's a way off. This is like an island-sized escape room. We just gotta figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was one of Lindelof's big inspirations for the show was the Myst games.
That's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that.
So yeah. So we do get a little wonky here because Kate goes down into the hatch and I don't know what happens. The hatch eats her. The light turns on, she screams, and then she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I don't want to recap, so I'm just kind of skipping, cutting and pasting here.
Sure.
Next thing we know, like Jack shows up and Locke's gone. It looks like he's gone down, possibly. Who knows? So Jack goes down, he goes looking, he's in the hatch. He finds a bunch of weird stuff. There's some kind of magnetism on one of the walls. There's a weird painting
that has Hurley's numbers on them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He finds like the dome room, which has the little computer. Doot, doot, doot. And
With like the smiley face or the frowny face.
Yeah. And then of course, at the very end of the episode, he sees Locke at gunpoint talking to this other guy. He's like, put the gun down. Never. It's this destiny, Locke, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy with the gun calls him brother. Do you want him to die, brother? Only one guy in this entire planet says brother like that. It's that one guy I met that one time. And sure enough, he pops out and you see it's Desmond from the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack's like, oh crap, you? And that's where it ends. So yeah, I mean, it was great. It was brilliant. I kind of just like I said, skipped through that last scene because most of it was just for drama, like dramatic effect. You see the hatch from Jack's perspective. We see shoes. I'm pretty sure those are Kate's because they looked small. It was either kids' shoes or like women's shoes. But we can't find Kate, but we found Locke at gunpoint with Desmond. So we're missing some stuff there. What happened to Kate? What happened when Locke went down there? So it's very much from Jack's perspective. Also, we got nothing from the raft crew. They weren't in this episode. So I feel like going forward, we're going to be filling in some gaps here and there. You already mentioned this. I was going to save it to this point, to the end. I want to talk about the hatch. No, it's fine because it works, because it fits with Desmond. But the whole opening scene, it was that like not the coolest scene to open an episode.
That was really cool. I love it. I love it when shows do that. And it's especially that, that's it's kind of one of like the sci-fi tropes, where it's like we went through like a whole season or 2 seasons of like something and it ends on a cliffhanger. Yeah. And then we're going to open up the next season with one guy doing his daily routine, while upbeat playing Mama and the Papas, make your own kind of music.
Yeah.
I love that song.
So this is, to this day, was the most watched Lost episode. It was like 23.74 million people on its premiere night. That was more than the premiere. That was more than the series finale. And I think because a lot of the driving focus was season 1, everyone was still watching. They didn't really lose viewers. They had, we talked about it. They have a lot of, it was already getting a lot of haters, but it didn't really lose anyone. A lot of it was because the hatch. They wanted to know what was in the hatch. So everyone tuned in episode 1, season 2 to find out what was in the hatch. And it's the highest watched Lost episode. So we have almost 24 million people watching. Oh, dude, this is 2005 fall. I'm already in New York at this point. Yeah, man, it was crazy. Wow, thinking back. Okay, I'm flashing back.
Within the Lost Legacies episode, Matthew is having a flashback.
So I was in college. I was at SVA. We had tiny little dorm rooms, and for Lost, Brian Gonzalez, my roommate at the time, he was into
Mhm.
Lost too. And I mean, we would always have people come over. So we usually had like 5 or 6 people filling in our small little room around my tiny little TV to watch Lost as it aired. We're like, oh man. But I was just saying all that because to set it up, we just got this show. All these people are watching Lost. We just got this first season where it's about people trying to survive on this island through all these weird kind of mysteries. And before we even get anything, the first noise we hear is the computer. Dude, dude. Instantly, we're watching it. We're like, what? What is this? What's going on? The mystery already starts from the first second before we even
Mhm.
get any visuals. And then, yeah, we see this guy going through his normal routine. He wakes up, doing dishes, working out to mamas and the papas. But then it starts getting weird. We start seeing he's like injecting himself with something. And he's punching things into the computer. I'm like, okay. And then something happens. We feel the explosion. And he starts getting the guns, and then he starts looking in the mirrors. It's such a cool thing because the whole story is like, what's in the hatch? Everyone wanted to know. The world wanted to know. Well, we instantly got answers to it without realizing it. They were
Mhm.
showing us what's in the hatch before we realized we were watching what was in the hatch.
Mhm.
I thought, I don't know, I thought it was a brilliant move. I thought it was great.
And that very sweet just camera move of it's very cool. Like it's a cool like thing of like showing us like Desmond looking through like the weird like telescope thing and
Yeah,
like kind of seeing like these mirrors sort of turning.
yeah.
And then what a cool like moment when the camera just like zooms past him, goes through essentially what is like this like living space, and then keeps going past this like dark doorway into a dark tunnel currently caved in with light coming down. You see a mirror on the ground reflecting people,
Mm-hmm.
and then the camera pulls up and spins around, and you see John Locke and Jack Shepard
Mm-hmm.
looking down the hatch.
It was the exact opposite shot that ended season one. It was just in reverse,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
mm-hmm.
Such a great moment, you know? And again,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, this is a hell of a way to open your season. Instantly, you're right. Instantly you get your answer.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hatch. This is what's in it. But now you need to know, what is it? And who is that? You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's and that's that's the cool thing, at least for me. Like, this is what I'm really loving. I'm loving how they're building out this mystery, you know. And I know, like you said, like ABC and the execs really, wanted the show to go on for 10 years, so they didn't want all the questions answered right away. um but it's very cool how even within answering one mystery, all of these other ones are now popping up. Like, okay, we know what's in the hatch, but what is it exactly? And who is that guy? What's he doing there? How long has he been there? What's with the different stuff that's going on? Like, what's with the painting and what's going on with Hurley's numbers, because they're there too. And then, yeah, like you said, like there's like a wall that looks like it's sealed off except for like one tiny opening. And Jack's key, the key to the gun case that's around his neck, it immediately is magnetized and starts like floating up. And I'm like, oh man, this is intense. This is crazy. We're just getting so many different little things going on here. And again, like it's all coming back to like character. Like that's what the show is about. It's about
Mm-hmm.
these people interacting. It just happens to be in this science fantasy, sort of setting.
Mm-hmm. It's all those
Uh,
smaller details which are starting to add up, or not really
mhm.
add up, but there's so many of them. They're like, oh, that's something's not right about that, and that could just
Exactly.
sum up so much of Lost. Like, that's not right. That's not
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
you're like, wow, okay, so what is this? Yeah. Yeah, man. So that's pretty much it. It was a solid episode. I really dug it. I think it's a great start to the season. I think it was a really good, I don't want to call it payoff, but it was a really good continuation for the way the first season ended.
Mm-hmm.
I can easily see a way where like they tried to stretch this out, like they didn't want it to, like they want to extend the mystery even further. And who knows, they may still. But I think we actually they gave us a lot in this first episode to really
Mm-hmm.
kind of um, marinate in for a while. Yeah, I think it was pretty solid. So with all of this now in mind, let's do well first let's do some MVPs before we do
Mm.
predictions. So
Okay.
so what do you think?
Man, this is tough.
This is a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a tough one mostly because I would want to give it to Matthew Fox,
Mhm.
but I only really found him like really like engaging, really giving me anything in his flashbacks, you know?
Right. Mhm.
And because his flashback, is going through like this crisis, this moral crisis, and then coming out at the end and being like, yeah, like he has to sort of like give in, he has to believe in he has to have something to hope for,
Yeah.
you know and then when Sarah's able to move her toes, like uh that's like reaffirmed in him. That's where he starts to go on that path of like, okay, like hope is the key, you know
Mhm.
um but in the present on the island, I'm not really feeling that, you know he still feels like, yeah, like I have to give them something to hope for, even if I don't believe in it. But that's it. Like he's a firm believer in just like not believing in
Mhm.
whatever other crap is going on out there. So so it's very weird. I feel like he's very stagnant on the island right now.
Mhm.
Uh, honestly, I kind of just want to give it to Desmond.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think he did a lot with um especially there was only really one scene where he had dialogue or not dialogue, but he had a scene. He had talking, he had speaking lines with Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the arena scene. And everything in that scene, all the little notes and tidbits they gave throughout that scene, like we remember, it was memorable. So when he does pop up at the end, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we have an idea who this guy is. And we didn't mention it too, but he did mention that he was training for a race around the world.
Yeah,
So now it's like, okay, how'd he end up on this island? How'd he end up in the hatch on this island of all
yeah.
places? So yeah. Okay, all right. Henry Ian Cusick, I believe that's how you say it. That's my boy Desmond, and that's what was his name in the 100?
Oh, I don't remember. He's good in that though. He's
Kane, Marcus
Kane.
Kane.
Yeah, that's
Man,
right.
he's great in the 100. He's one of the standouts. If you want to see some good performance, check him out in the 100. I know season 1 he's a reoccurring character, so
Mm-hmm.
he's only in a couple episodes, but like season 2 and on, he's like one of the main cast. That's a performance, and that's a character that are really, I don't want to give too much away, but you go in the show thinking one thing of this guy and you get to see his growth. And I don't know, I've already talked about how much I love that show, even though it's a kind of love-hate relationship with it. But Henry Ian Cusack is definitely one of the reasons I love that show. So I recommend checking out the 100. And if you don't want to, wait a couple of years because we might get to the 100 on this podcast. But it's gonna be a while because we got a lot of Lost ahead of us.
we got 6 seasons of Lost, baby. It's gonna be a
Damn,
bit.
we only got 5 more, less
Oh,
than
I'm sorry.
5 now.
We have. It's still 5.
We're
We still
going,
have
man.
5 seasons.
We're going. Well, if you think about it this way, this is episode 26, I guess. So we have less than 100 left because I think it was 121 total.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we got like 95, 94 to go. Plenty of
Wonderful.
time. Plenty of time. All right. So Sam's MVP is Henry Ian Cusack.
Mm-hmm.
This might be a little I feel like it's cop out, but it really isn't because credit goes where credit's due. But I got to give it to Lindelof for this one. It was a solo
Mm.
episode. He wrote it on his own. Like I said, I think it's a perfect, not just a season premiere, but a perfect continuation, part two or whatever you want to say from the finale of last season.
Mhm.
I That's it. I'm done. That's all I got. This whole episode is talking about why it works so well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
Damon Lindelof definitely for him.
Mhm.
Okay, so Sam, here we are, season two. Just what we've seen so far.
Mhm.
What are you thinking? What are your predictions? Long term, little term, medium term?
All right. All right. First of all, I'm thinking Walt is using like his weird psychic powers to try and like beam images into Shannon's head right now to be like, hey, something's up, something's wrong. I feel like this might be stretching it a little bit, but I feel like Vincent is like the antenna, you know? He's gonna be like some weird like divining, rock thing. He's a compass. He's the compass pointing back to Walt. I think that's kind of what I'm feeling with like Vincent like running off immediately, staying long enough for Saeed and Shannon to see him, and then he leaves. He runs off again. So I feel like Vincent is sort of like a magnetic compass locked directly to where like Walt is.
That's interesting.
And
Okay.
Walt is trying to like, yeah, psychically beam stuff to Shannon. So
Mhm.
Shannon's gonna be pretty big this season, I feel like. As far as anything with like Desmond and the Hatch go, I think we're just we're gonna eventually see like the origin of the Hatch.
Mm.
I think we're eventually gonna, like I'm pretty sure we're gonna find out like how it works, why it's there, what it does, at least in some capacity. Maybe not this season, but like later.
Mhm.
But I feel like we are definitely gonna see some sort of like the origins of the Hatch.
Mhm. Okay.
And Jack and Locke, they're gonna have a showdown. It's probably like fist fight, something, but it's gonna happen. I feel it.
Mhm.
Mark my words.
They have been marked.
All right.
Cool, man. I think those are some solid predictions for both season two and just the series onward. We had so far so good. One episode in, and we have a great start to season two. We're going to see if that continues because next week we're talking about season two, episode two, Adrift, in which we see the aftermath of the raft explosion.
Ooh.
Now, this is interesting because, like I said, this is day 44 on the island. At the same time, if you think about it, this episode only spanned a few hours?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a good chance that like we're gonna pick up straight up where last season ended off. I think it's all going to be within the span of a few hours, which I just want to say too. Remember, this is a show that's very I don't know. I'm not saying this for a fact. Like I have a feeling because I kind of remember this, but I don't know for certain. But like as of now, I know season one to now is 44 episodes. I don't think season two is going to be that long of a time. So we had a month and a half. I honestly don't know if this season's going to like how long in Showtime this season's going to last. Because
Ooh,
I do
okay.
remember that because it's some are longer than others, and I think season one is technically one of the longer ones, being a month and a half. So who knows? I do know at some point there is a season that's like I think it's supposed to take place all in the span of a week. I
Oh
think
wow.
we'll get to that season when we talk about
That's a
it.
hell of a week.
Yeah. I
What
think
is this? 24?
I think it's one of my favorite seasons too. So if I remember correctly, I don't know. Maybe I just made that up. We'll find out in a
Yeah, we'll
couple of
find
dozen
out.
episodes. Yeah.
And you'll find out too, viewer, listener.
But only if you like, subscribe. I don't know. Is there notification for podcasts? There has to be, right?
Sure.
Turn on your notifications.
Yeah, if you're subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts, pretty sure if you're subscribed to us on Spotify,
Technically anywhere.
that might,
like
yeah, anywhere you should get a notification, that the little bing or whatever that
I think
says,
it's safe to say at this point, if there's a platform that has podcasts, we're on it.
Yeah.
If we're not, let us know, because I went to great lengths to make sure we were everywhere. So let us know. I think the only places we wouldn't be are like, there are specific apps where you have to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're on that, because that's weird. So like, you pay a subscription for this app, and then that gives you access to all these like specialty stuff, kind of like Sirius Radio. It's kind of like that. So I don't think we're on anything like that, but anywhere you can find free podcasts,
okay,
you can find us. And trust us, you get what you paid for. So hit us up at hashtag Lost Legacies. I am on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch, which is my preferred username.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Cool. All right. Well, until next time, love you guys. It's good to be back. We hope you're still here with us. And don't forget to get lost.